The Tallboy Experience.
Scoop Jackson here, and got one thing to ask you. Do you want this experience? Trust, Tallboy gonna give it to you. No motherfucking doubt.
If you want the exclusive, you want the Tallboy, because he's gonna bring you the exclusive.
Let's ask the question first. How loyal have teams in the past been to players? That's the bottom line. It's like you have the fact that you now have some control of your own destiny, I think is good. I feel that the game is there's more leverage now for the players than there ever has been, and players are exercising their leverage. You know, like you said, back in your day, back in my day, you know, outside of you being a franchise player, right, teams weren't loyal to you. So I'm glad to see, you know, traffic going two ways instead of the one-way street that it used to be. So I'm not mad at all the players, you know, because if you look at the history of the game in all sports, there was no loyalty, you know, not to players that weren't, like I said, franchise player, you know. And hell, you look at it this way, the one player in the history of the game that any franchise should have been loyal to, like, unconditionally, that organization wasn't loyal to him. You know, look, I'm not a Phil Jackson fan at all, but look at the way the Bulls treated Phil Jackson. That man won them 6 rings, and they didn't want to re-sign his contract. And Michael Jordan, who is the epitome of what franchise player, the definition of franchise player, he's the epitome of that. He said to them, like, look, Phil goes, I go. That's the gauntlet he threw down. Now, how loyal were the Bulls organization to Phil Jackson and Michael Jordan? So here's the thing. You ask me how I feel about players being loyal to teams. Here's a situation. This is a classic example of a team not being loyal to a player who's done nothing but do what you ask them to do. You're in professional sports is the winning business. This is what we did for you. We win. We got you 6 of these things. And the coach who did that can't get a re-up on his contract? I'm Michael Jordan. You're willing to let me leave here? For what reason? I've done everything you asked me to. And in the case of Phil Jackson, let's take it. Same thing with the Lakers. He won the Lakers chips. And in the last year of his contract, the Bucks family was like, no, we're not, you know, we're not going to re-sign him, you know. So, you know, let's go to the loyalty on the other end. You know? So, the players, to me, now that they're in a position or taking advantage of their situation contractually to at least leverage the playing field, I'm all for it. Oh, it's all good. I mean, once again, it's, you know, the thing now is, you know, about finding a way to become a brand, even if it's in your own brand. That's fine, because that's what audiences gravitate to. That's what allows your content to get clicks. You know, that's going to put more eyes on what it is that you do and who you are. You know, so, you know, the way the game is forming now, it's character building and brand building. And if you are an individual, you become that character. That means you become that brand. And so to get that brand out there, because you're not just necessarily competing inside of the game, you're competing against the game to a certain degree. So it's important for a Stephen A. and a Jason Whitlock and a Bill Simmons to become their own brands in this game. You know, because I hate to say it, just as we spoke on team loyalty to players, you know, this game basically isn't loyal to the guys who are in the game themselves. You know, we are the players of the game, and there's no loyalty to us in this game from bigger brands unless we are franchise players. And even if we are franchise players, it doesn't make a difference. Their game is bigger than our game. So they know, the ESPN knows they're going to be fine without Scoop Jackson. They know they're going to look. ESPN let Bill Simmons go. Bill Simmons is the biggest brand, damn near individually, in this game. ESPN's like, all right, we're good. You know. So what do you do if you are Bill Simmons? You have to become your own brand because that's your only leverage. You know, you're fighting inside of the game, but you're fighting against the game at the same time.
So to the journalists that are in college or bloggers or basement barbershop talkers, what do you say to them?
My thing to them is kind of contrary to what we just talked about. I would say to them, don't make it your whole focus to become a brand. Make it your focus to find out what it is in the game, what craft in the game you want to specialize in and perfect that. You know, I'm not saying the branding thing is a trend. I think it's here to stay because I think the dynamics of the game have changed to that degree. But popularity, notoriety, building a fan base is something that is out of your control. And I've never been a big believer in anybody in this particular game trying to do something that you have no control over, trying to become something that you have no control over. So fame is something none of us have control over. Notoriety is something none of us have control over. What we do have control over is what we bring to the game as far as the skill set is concerned. What is our contribution to the craft that we're in? At the end of the day, like, I'm a writer. That's what I can control, is trying to be the best or greatest writer that I can be. That's all I have control over. Anything other than that is out of my control. But I'll do whatever I can to make what I contribute to this craft speak for me. Speak for what ability I have and speak for who I feel that I am. That's what I can control. And that's what I'll tell young people to focus on. Don't focus on being famous. Don't focus on money. Don't focus on, popularity, notoriety, or fame. Focus on what you bring to the table as far as a craft is concerned. Are you putting yourself in position to be looked at as one of the best broadcasters that ever did this? Are you putting yourself in position to be looked at as one of the best producers, most creative producer that ever did this? Are you putting yourself in position to be looked at and looked upon as the best interviewer in this game? The best writer in this game, the best journalist in this game, the best editor in this game, the best camera person in this game, the best set designer in this game. Whatever it is, whatever that craft is, whatever that is, are you putting yourself in a position to be the best at that? And not only the best, because the best can be time sensitive. Greatness isn't time sensitive. Greatness speaks to the span of whatever it is that you do. Greatness is about the game itself. Are you putting yourself in a position to be considered one of the greatest that's ever done this? Either in your generation or of your generation. That's what you can control. And that's what I tell them to focus on. Well, I think we were told early on that there would be some cuts along the line. That we were told like 3 years ago that the company is going to try to shave $100 million, and however that was going to happen. And they didn't give a time period of when it's going to happen. So, we were all prepared, for, whatever changes were going to be made because, as most companies are doing, they're trying to cut back and save money and be proactive in that, and seeing how the ebbs and flows of the business have been going for the last decade or so. Not necessarily prepare yourself for the worst, but be savvy about how you do things and not let excess be the reason that you're not meeting your bottom line financially. Or that you wind up in the end of the game losing money because you are spending money in excess of stuff you don't necessarily need. That's not just an ESPN thing. That's a company policy across the board, period, all companies. I mean, we're here in Atlanta, and, Coca-Cola let go of like 700 people, I think. Or 1,200 people. They said they were going to let go, something crazy. Even companies that seem to be doing well are finding ways to curb what they're doing financially as far as output is concerned. Google, Amazon. You know, it's like, yo, what the hell is going on? You know, we got to be smart about this. So at ESPN, we were told a long time ago that that's the route they were going to take. And so I feel about it, I'll say this. I appreciate the fact that them as a company let us know ahead of time what their financial plan was.
So it wasn't an abrupt decision.
Nah.
Everyone knew. So when the cuts came, it wasn't.
I mean, I'm pretty sure there were people who were surprised. There were people there 20, 25, with 20 years. Nobody was there 25 years. You know, there were people there with 20 years that didn't see this coming for them personally. But
They were still told.
yeah, they didn't say we're going to be firing people. They said we're going to shave $100 million. However that comes. You know what I'm saying? However that comes, it's going to come. But if you're smart, you don't need to be told that when a large company is trying to, you know, is scaling down that size as far as money is concerned, that its personnel is going to be a part of that. I don't want to stop, but let me clarify that question. I've never had a public issue with Jason Whitlock. He's always had an issue with me. It's a one-way street. You know, the only reason I ever even responded to Jason when I did a column on ESPN, he responded because he kept coming at me, and I'm like, I can't sit up here and be defenseless about this cat expressing his dislike or distaste for me and what I do without saying something, you know. But this always has been a one-way street. I've really never had a public problem with Jason. So I don't want to, you know, I just want to be clear that I don't have really a public problem with Jason at all. So go ahead. I'm sorry. I think it's good for the culture. You know, I think it's good because I think Jason is a talented individual and a talented writer. Two, I think he does exactly what he wants to do and he moves the needle. You know, he's interested in not only putting his talent out there, but doing it in a polarizing way that is against the grain. And he knows he's against the grain, and he's comfortable being against the grain. And I like being against the grain because, to me, that's necessary. Especially coming from a side of the game that is rooted in the racial dynamic and the underserving that happens to come to us in this game from a content provider standpoint. You know, there aren't that many black journalists in the larger scheme of things when you look at the game in full. And whether you agree or disagree with either what I do or what Jason does or some of us do, I'd rather have us out there in full, polarizing, agree, not agree. You know, I'd rather have us there in full as opposed to just having us out there in small volume and being one-dimensional. You know, I think the biggest way we could set ourselves up for failure as a culture and a race in journalism is to be one-sided, is to be monolithic, is to not be diverse in thought. So what Jason brings to the game is important because he gives us a dimension of not being one-dimensional. He becomes that third dimension. And if you're looking at the totality of the game and looking at us as black folks and our existence in this game as journalists, he serves a great purpose for us being able to survive because he makes us not one-dimensional. You know, you can't look at black journalism and say, oh, that's black journalism right there. That's all this is about. You know what I'm saying? We need something else to give us broadness. And Jason provides that. And if you look at the game, especially in comparison to other cultures and other races, that's what keeps him alive, is that you can't look at journalism and say, all right, here, take example. Skip Bayless and Bill Simmons are two totally different individuals. Both journalists, both doing their thing, but they're two totally different individuals. Do you see how much more complete that makes the game? How that bookends the game and gives room for all that could be in between there? As opposed to Skip and Bill Simmons, if they were the exact same person, and we could say, hey, that's white journalism. We could generalize and characterize it as being one thing. How long of a lifespan does that have if you're just that monolithic? You become predictable, you become one-dimensional, you could become easily disposable.
I agree with what you're saying, but I guess my question is, with the police brutality that we're seeing on TV, with cameras, right?
Right, true. Right.
With all that being said, how can you be opposed to some of the...
Because people are, man. I mean, we can't, it's not just, Jason is not just black folks. It's America itself. Look at how different we are in thought just as people in this country. There are people, look, it's not like Donald Trump doesn't have any following. He may have been, outvoted by 3 million people, but still, in a country that has 200 million people, 3 million is not that big a deal. There's a lot of people who follow that ideology. You get what I'm saying?
Think big, think tall, think tall boy.
Tallboy.